In the big year of 2026, I finally finished my first playthrough of Dark Souls 1. I know, hold the applause. Now I've tried the game on a few occasions, but every time I never felt its claws dig into me, you know? It wasn't until Bloodborne released that I truly experienced the Souls game, but after that, I still didn't go back to Lordran. I even got Dark Souls 1 for free when later buying Dark Souls 3 for the Xbox One, and I still only played a little bit of it before going hollow. Recently though, I've been stuck on a Souls kick, and I decided it was finally time to complete a playthrough of Dark Souls 1. My previous attempts ended with being stuck in the Tomb of the Giants without a Lord Vessel, and getting thrashed in the Undead Burg trying to figure out my path forward. I know, classic Dark Souls. This time though, I wanted to make it to the end, and I wasn't worried about crossing the finish line as I consumed hours and hours of Dark Souls 1 content on YouTube. I felt like having that combined with my previous Souls experience meant I really shouldn't get stuck anywhere. I already seen most of the bosses, I knew which areas were dreaded, and I learned that the catacombs were for the second half of the game. Honestly, I felt like I knew too much. I was worried that the game wouldn't give me the real Dark Souls experience. Well, I am here today to tell you that Dark Souls 1 deserves its praise. Yeah, I know. It's a pretty cold take in 2026 to say that Dark Souls is a great game. Everyone knows this. You can find endless videos on YouTube of people explaining why this game is so legendary. This is partly why I never felt the need to play it for myself. I felt like I understood what everyone was saying. I mean, I played Bloodborne as my first Souls game. I thought I pretty much had the same welcome to Souls experience that every other player feels when they beat any of the Souls games that From Software has created. But something is different about Dark Souls. There is some sort of aura that envelops this game that is truly unique. Its world design, its open-ended structure, the many ways you can self-sabotage your game state, it's these concepts that feel so alive in this game that make it so similar but so different to the other games in the series. Even with all the spoilers I saw and previous Souls knowledge I gained, Dark Souls 1 still treated me like every other player who awoke as the chosen undead. As I mentioned before, I started with Bloodborne. You know, the game with an aggressive playstyle and a combat dash instead of a roll. I played Demon Souls after, so I understood the speed of other games was quite slower. However, even with that, Dark Souls 1 still felt really slow. I think this is because there isn't a lot of fast bosses in Demon Souls that make you feel your stamina bar the way Dark Souls 1 does. Dark Souls 1 was slow in a way where the weight of every button press was truly heavy. When I took an extra swing, I watched in slow motion how my greed got the best of me. The DLC bosses in particular felt like they were made to push this slower combat to its limit. They forced me to use every bit of stamina and made me disciplined. Even with saying this, I would be lying if I said I wasn't frustrated, because at first I just kept getting upset at the sticky inputs of the game. Souls has always had it where if you press a button during an animation, it will do that command when you next have active frames. I wasn't naive to this when I started playing, but for some reason I was annoyed when playing Dark Souls 1. I attribute this to the slow combat speed because I just wanted my turn to start winning a fight. I also use two-handed strength weapons when I play Souls, so not really helping me there. I had to really slow my actions down and stop acting like my Souls experience would carry me through the combat. It made me respect Dark Souls 1's flow and acquiesce to the pace set in place. This frustration turned into excitement as I started getting my rolls down and my backstab loops online. Enemies became little puzzles that I needed to figure out, and once I did, I was able to handle them. I love how many different enemy types were really in this game too. It felt like I had already seen most things before starting, but I kept finding new creatures to swing on. The slow combat made every new encounter feel important where I needed to be on my best behavior. I know this game's deliberate and disciplined combat has been talked about at length, but I want to emphasize that even with prior Souls experience, even with playing Demon Souls, I was still forced to lock in and play to its tune. With the slower combat came another realization that Dark Souls brought upon me. This game is really open. When I say open, I don't mean to talk about the connected world design or the multiple paths you can take when you start. I mean like literally open, like what is all this space here for? I know Souls games for some tight hallways, a set path to follow with some branches, and a few mildly spacious areas in between. I mean, I played Elden Ring before this, so I've seen how truly open a Souls game could get, but even that didn't have the same effect on me as when I walked into the Demon Ruins or the bottom of Blighttown. I got this sense of true adventure from these areas just due to their enormous size compared to the narrow path you just arrived from. Even if there isn't a lot going on at times, these open areas felt different in a way that beckoned me to explore. Even if the Poison Swamp in Blighttown is truly hell to endure, seeing that I can actually just walk around this huge area at the bottom of the sewers was just still kind of exciting. I think if these open areas were littered with more enemies, I wouldn't be as wondrous when traversing. The Crystal Cave, for example. It was hard for me to even know if this place was a path to go when I made it here. When you finally start the journey, it looks incredible, and you get to be mostly by yourself when trying to figure out how to navigate it. You get to fight a few crystal golems on the way through, but they aren't common enough to disrupt the atmosphere. Ash Lake also exemplifies this perfectly with this truly insane tucked away area that you find after being packed into a vertical tree with the most cursed enemy in this game. Ash Lake has you running through these huge open plots of sand, and it's this shift from closed to open that feels so impactful. Yeah, it has some enemies and of course a Hydra, but it's this mysterious setting and vast area that just feels so unique to run through. I know it sounds boring to call running in a mostly empty gaming world to be a quality experience, but let me explain. I will be the first to say that I was not feeling these areas when I was first exploring Dark Souls 1. I thought running through a large plot of land that has few points of interest just to get to where I need to go was annoying, and if it was for a boss run back, it was even more annoying. Doing the stamina regen loop in a space that felt too big for really no reason seemed at times ridiculous. With saying this though, I grew to appreciate it. Dark Souls world is uncompromising to what you would like to do. Yeah, I would like to just speed boost my way back to the bed of chaos, but I can't. I gotta pull my pants up and walk through a giant lava-filled room and navigate my way back. I have to run through a giant spacious grove and then a crystal cave to attempt Seath again. I'm not trying to glamorize these runbacks, far from it, but just the huge space they have you run through felt so grand. Take Anor Londo. It feels so empty because it has these huge rooms with only a few enemies in between. This emptiness to me made the setting feel larger than life and truly like I am in the land of the gods. Of course, this is also a piece of the Dark Souls lore with the city being abandoned by the time we arrive, but it wouldn't have this feeling if it shortened its size just to make the travel time quicker for the player. I feel the same in all of these areas because it makes you live in the world. I had thought it to be just padding my time when failing a segment, but that padding turned into a feeling of connection where I became fonder of my surroundings. You can call this coping with bad game design, and I can completely understand that take, as I am sure it's more reasonable to make this game less of a holding sprint simulator, but even if it was or wasn't intentional, it gives this sense of a true journey to or from wherever your undead adventure takes you. Even if it's to the... Now let's talk about the Bed of Chaos. I had heard about this boss back when Dark Souls 1 came out. I was honestly dreading this fight and the runback, as all I heard from friends and online was that it was hell. And then I got to do it myself, and everyone was right. It was truly awful. I knew the gimmick to the Bed of Chaos before I even started this playthrough. I already saw videos of people dying in all sorts of unfortunate ways, and I thought I couldn't get tilted or surprised as I knew exactly what I was getting myself into. But even with that knowledge, I still died over and over at each stage of this fight. I got swatted into holes, hit by fire, and knocked midair as I leaped to this janky ass tree branch to finally kill it. But when I killed it, I didn't get this feeling of accomplishment like when I finally overcame Father Gascoigne in Bloodborne. I didn't feel like I understood the game any better. It was instead this feeling of perseverance and survival, that I was good enough, that I was stubborn enough to keep slamming my head against this boss until I finally won. I didn't go hollow and give up, I actually overcame this thing. The relief of being done was combined with the hype of being able to join the conversation about this crazy boss all these years later. I was finally able to yell back to the Dark Souls community and say, I did it. It was awful, but I did it. and for that feeling of unity and discipline alone, it felt great. The fun thing about Dark Souls is there are universal and personal experiences. A universal experience is the bed of chaos making you question your own sanity. I call this universal because it's a required boss that everyone must generally do the same thing to get past it. A personal experience is me getting to the Four Kings boss room and killing myself on repeat because I didn't have the Ring of Artorias from killing Sif. My personal journey led me away from Sif, and I had to figure out where I went wrong. When I finally crashed out and looked up why I couldn't get this boss room to activate, I thought it was crazy that other players knew this without any help. I asked my Souls friend if he and others had the same experience back in the day, and he said that he's never killed Sif this late in the game. Sif is such an early boss that it's expected that you've already killed him by the time you search out the Four Kings. And that made sense to me, but how did I still miss it? I felt like I was doing a good job of going down all the paths, hitting walls, and reading items, but then I learned that I never tried to go back to the locked door I found when roaming the Darkroot Garden. Reading this made me realize that I truly hadn't seen Sif, and that's one of the bosses I heard about online countless times due to the lore surrounding them. I couldn't believe I missed something so crucial to the main game. Speaking of missing things, when I beat the game, I didn't realize I missed Ash Lake and the Great Hollow, entire areas of the game. I also never fought Gwendolyn because why would I attack this nice lady who helped me? I could have looked up where every boss and area was when I was playing, but I thought I'd be able to sniff most things out with how much I already knew about the game. Okay, so I did look up how to get to the DLC, but be for real with me for a second, how did people find this blind? Overall, it really blew me away that I still missed this much. Seeing videos online of the light leaving Anne Orlando when you kill Guinevere was something that I never expected. I was frustrated at my lack of discovery skills, but that frustration turned into excitement when I wondered what else I was missing on my own journey through Lordran. I started to look up the NPC quests and saw all the bonfires that I walked right past. All Souls games have things that everyone will miss on their first playthrough, but seeing how you can actually save Solaire and have him help you in the final fight versus Gwen, seeing how complex Sigmar's quest is, and how sad it ends even when saving him at every encounter, the way Dark Souls 1's world has you on your own personal adventure means you will miss out on so many of these based on when and how you get to these different parts of the game. To accomplish this sense of true adventure and consequence based on choices and paths taken, to me, is nothing short of amazing. Another personal experience for me was fighting Quelaag and Nito. Now before playing Dark Souls, I already knew that Ornstein and Smog were no joke. I heard dark tales of the bed of chaos and what it could do to my mental health. I knew Manus was where things could get shaky, but I was never hearing people say anything about Quelaag or Nito. Let me tell you, I got served by these bosses. I'm talking over and over for nearly 2 hours apiece. I was asking my friend if he got stuck like this, and he didn't understand my rage at these bosses as they never gave him much of a problem. Both Quelaag and Nito got worse for me because their runbacks were honestly hell. Poison Swamp rolling and rock dodging my way back to Quelaag was giving me a headache. I thought it was ridiculous to have this be the way to retry a boss. Then the pinwheel room with the little skeletons biting your ankles had me thinking this was a sick joke by FromSoft. I almost never made it back to Nito without taking damage, and even if I did, I still took damage. I was in full tilt mode with both of these bosses, and what hurt more was I felt like I was getting stuck at something unremarkable. I never heard of these things stopping a Dark Souls journey. I felt like a bad Souls player for not blowing past them, and it made my greed while fighting them even worse. I had to lock in and stop being so eager to win. When I did beat them both, I felt such a sense of victory as I was finally able to progress in the game again. I was mad that I was even stuck in the first place, and it didn't click for a while, but I became happy that I was stuck on something that I never heard was a problem. It's because it made me feel like I was truly having my own experience in the game. I was so worried that all my spoiling would ruin so many moments and bosses, but somehow this game from 2011 was able to push through all that and provide me with something unforgettable. This is why I think Dark Souls 1 deserves its praise. I can't think of many games that I could spend hours watching lore videos, let's plays, and funny shorts about that would still give me this sense of confusion and mystery while playing. Dark Souls met my ego at the door and told me to get good or go home. And you know, get good used to mean something. I know the aura around Souls has evolved so much since Elden Ring hit the mainstream, but I remember when Dark Souls 1 first came out. I remember I thought the people playing it were game masochists who just loved death simulators. I thought it was a gaming experience that I didn't need to play. But through all of that, I saw a community that bonded over its challenges, where getting good was as endearing as it was trolling, where the lore is still being discussed to this very day. Beating Dark Souls back then earned a badge that shined bright in the gaming landscape. Praising the sun was something that only those who conquered these challenges could say in solidarity. It all seems so long ago, but when I beat Dark Souls 1, it all just kinda hit me. It gave me this rush to want to play the game again because I still had things I wanted to go back and do for myself. This feeling surprised me because while playing Dark Souls 1, I had said to myself, yeah, this is a one and done game for me. I thought that I was just kind of playing it to check off that I beat it on my Souls game kick. I had no idea by the time I finished that my frustrations while playing would turn into fond memories that I don't know if I can ever recreate due to the past ignorance I once had. I understood that this game was a janky, unfinished mess at times, but that somehow added to everything. I know it sounds cringe to say the flaws are features, but for some reason, due to the curated, persistent struggle, they were. The lack of direction, the large areas you spend so much time walking through, the chance to just unknowingly ruin your game state, these things, no matter how intentional, are a flavor that to me, tastes just right. Dark Souls 1 is special. Special to the point where you can't just watch your favorite streamer play the game and use that as your experience with it. You need to play it for yourself, and no matter what you know, you will have your own individual experience. You will have your personal nightmare of a boss, you will miss quest lines and secret loot, you will get lost between bonfires and probably miss some bonfires along the way. But more than anything, when you finally link the fire or let the Age of Darkness begin, you will want to start it all over again. Maybe start with the Master Key this time to start messing with the pacing. Maybe try a new build to change the flow of combat. Or maybe it's just to see Lordran again and live in this incredible world that won't let you forget its face. Dark Souls 1 deserves its praise because its world allows for individual experiences to develop in an organic way. This can be applied to most Souls games, but I feel that Dark Souls 1 still stands out to me. It feels wholly unique in its approach to its design and the way you can interact with it. I have played other Souls games and felt the differences between what they provide, and I still left Dark Souls 1 with some weird grandiose feeling that I only scratched the surface. That I didn't want to watch a video of a quest anymore because I wanted to go out there and do it myself. I had thought that I ruined my chance at experiencing this game from watching it online and playing other games in the series, but I am so thankful for Dark Souls 1 because in 2026, it still treated me like it was 2011, like I was the ignorant chosen undead wandering in a land that is as legendary in game as it is in real life. That's all I got for today. I really appreciate you watching the video and making it all the way to the end. Like the video if you can because man, I try on these and YouTube's all weird, it doesn't really care to push your videos otherwise. Let me know in the comments a personal experience you had in Dark Souls 1, I'd love to hear about it. Other than that, it takes guts to subscribe, so click it if you want to see more. Thanks again and y'all take care.